Come blue and white and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Carlisle United, the team that's on the ball. Carlisle United, the team for one and all. You're looking good and we're with you all the way. You'll hear us singing every time you
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, a podcast focusing on the trials and tribulations of Carlisle United Football Club. From Darren Carr to Roddy Collins and Damon Searle to Gordon Staniforth, we've got it covered. This is episode 18 and today we're going to be reviewing United's first defeat in 7 games following the 1-0 loss at Exeter. Looking ahead to the midweek Brunton Park clash against early table toppers Newport County. A quick news roundup of the last few days and looking at what former United players and coaches have been getting up to across the weekend. I'm your host, Lee Rooney, and today I'm joined on this episode by one of my regular co-hosts, and it's Mike Booth. Mike, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going all right. You know, I'm not too depressed following the weekend's results. Sort of, there is a bit to sort of, you know, keep your chin up about. So yeah, we'll obviously get into that.
Narrow defeat against one of the, you know, the sides you'd expect to be right up there this season. You can't really get too distant, especially the fact we're down to 10 men for a good half an hour of that game as well.
Yeah, exactly, and obviously we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's but we're in the middle of quite a sort of tough run of games at the minute, so it'll be really interesting to see where we are when we come out of it.
Okay, let's get on with the episode then, Mike. So start with news roundup. So we can start with a bit of an update on the FA Cup ties. Obviously on Friday, me and Dan discussed the fact that we might be one of the games chosen as a live broadcast, and it turns out we have been. So our FA Cup clash against Hayes and Yeading is penciled in to kick off this Sunday, 6th of November at 12:45pm. The game will be featuring on BBC Final Score with goal updates, but it'll be a single camera stream of the game that will also be available to watch on iPlayer. United get 12,500 from being broadcast live, as do Hayes and Yeading. There was some initial doubt, wasn't there, Mike, over the weekend, because obviously with the new lockdown coming into place, that because they said that elite football can continue, or elite sport, and obviously Hayes and Yeading actually played just below elite level, don't they? They're at the Southern League, they're just below the National Leagues. So there was a bit of a worry there that potentially the game might not go ahead. But it's just been confirmed today, hasn't it, that the game will go ahead as planned, as will all the other games involving teams that are non-elite under elite protocols.
Yeah, it's good because the knock-on effect, if they had to postpone all the cup games that had non-elite teams in, it would just be ridiculous. And obviously this is only sort of really just over a week, isn't it, after the full lockdown measures are implemented, and yeah, so there's, you know, obviously let the games go ahead, but it'll be interesting if some of the non-elite teams get to the second round, because if, you know, they're going into them games with no football against an elite side that's had plenty of football, it could be a cricket score. Well,
I've noticed actually just before we come on there that Workington have been drawn against Nantwich Town in the FA Trophy, and that game's due to be played on the 14th of November, I think it was. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to play that game if elite football's not allowed. It's a bit of a strange one, that one. But yeah, obviously, teams that win in the first round receive £16,972. It's quite precise, that, isn't it, really? It's an unusual one. From the FA prize fund, with the losing clubs receiving £5,657. That is down quite significantly on previous years, isn't it? Because I think it's something like 37,000, I think it used to be for winning in the first round, maybe even more than that.
Well, the FA prize fund, a lot of that comes from, isn't it, like, you know, the teams, the gates is split 45-45 and then the other 10% goes in. So obviously there's no gates, so there's no prize fund. Yeah,
so it's a difficult one for the FA, isn't it? A lot of people criticise them, but, you know, they're struggling for money as much as anyone, aren't they, during all this? So can't really blame them in that sense. So yeah, so the FA Cup tie, as we said there, it will be, you'll be able to watch it on the iPlayer or on the BBC website. So great that we'll be able to watch the game and won't have to even pay for it as well, which is nice. A little bit of League 2 news for you as well. Obviously, Tranmere manager Mike Jackson has been sacked after just 10 league games in charge, with Rovers lying in 18th place. He took over, didn't he? He was the assistant, wasn't he, to Mickey Mellon. He's quite a legendary, popular player, isn't he? Former player, that is, at Tranmere. And he's just found it tough, hasn't he?
Well, you know, it's not all about results in football, you know, and it's not all black or white. You know, and
I've got more. Go on.
Apparently, he was having a go at some of the players following the recent form, and you know, the way you make me feel isn't very good for those players. No, that's rubbish, isn't it?
Do you reckon when the board had finished telling him he was getting sacked, they told him to beat it? Could go on all day here, couldn't we? But let's leave it at that. So yeah, a little bit of a surprise. Well, I say a little bit of a surprise. I suppose there's a lot of expectation on them to go straight back up to League One at the first attempt, isn't there? And they really haven't started the season well, especially when you think they invested in signing James Vaughan over the summer play. You'd expect to bag a load of goals from him. It just hasn't worked out so far, has it, really?
No.
Okay, Mike, well, that's I think enough of the news. So let's now look back at the weekend game. And it's the defeat to Exeter 1-0 of all the players that scored. If you're going to say former player, you'd probably back Ryan Bowman, but it was Tom Parks that got the only goal of the game on 48 minutes.
Not only did he get the goal, though, he had a fantastic game. He's probably the best player on the pitch, to be honest.
Yeah, he had a really good game. That's testament to how well we played, even with 10 men, is the fact that their centre-back's probably been the best player for them. So obviously a 1-0 defeat. As you mentioned there, Toure picked up a red card. We'll discuss that in a minute. I mean, even with being down to 10 men for half an hour, possession-wise, 52-48 split, so fairly equal, really. Shots. We had 3 more shots than they did. Both teams had 2 shots on target. We had 12 shots in total. They had 9. Corners, we had more. We gave away less fouls. Yeah, it was a very balanced game, really, and it's frustrating, just one little lapse from a set piece again that's cost us the game, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was poor from McDonald on the set piece. These things happen, don't they? But I mean, even with the man sent off, we didn't stop sort of creating chances. You know, we were still sort of chasing the game, and it's one of them, isn't it? I mean, the sending off, you know, for me, their man should have gone, and if he'd gone and Toure hadn't, could it have been a completely different scoreline?
I think, to be honest, if both of them being sent off, I probably still would have backed us to put the pressure on and potentially get an equaliser. But being down to 10 men, did it make just that little bit tougher for us? So the result leaves us in 8th place in League 2 after 10 games with 17 points and a +2 goal difference. Currently 8 points behind first place Newport County, our opponents this week, midweek, and 2 points behind third place Cheltenham Town. So it's still very tight at the top, other than Newport, who are really pulling away on a great run of form. Main talking points, I think you've already pretty much touched the first one we're going to go into there. 2 reds rather than 1. I don't think any of us would disagree that Toure was a red card, really.
No.
Just really stupid. I think Taylor should have been sent off there for them. I think I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, he can avoid standing on Toure there. He doesn't. It's not a case if he's fallen onto him. He can avoid him easily.
I mean, even some Exeter fans were saying that, you know, they were very lucky not to have him sent off, and you know, and Toure lashed out, like, because there was no sort of decision from the ref. I feel if the referee had come in straight away after that stomp and said, right, you're off, you know, he maybe wouldn't have got up and reacted the way he did.
I'm not so sure. I think he maybe has a little bit of a hot sort of streak in him, maybe a hot temper. What I'd say is I think Toure needs to be a bit cuter there, really. And he needs to make it clear, because, I mean, he has stood on him and there's a slight reaction, but he needs to be... I know people don't like it, but he needs to be rolling around and making it clear that he's been stood on there, because he has been stood on. You know, there's no doubt about it.
I mean, Beech said in the post-match interview, basically, that good players who are sort of tricky and difficult, they're going to get kicked. You know, that's part and parcel of the game, and if people see that he's going to react like that to a kick, he's only going to get kicked more. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So... yeah,
I hope he learns his lesson from it, and that actually, in a weird way, might benefit us, because if people go around kicking him, then someone's going to get sent off eventually, aren't they, for some daft behaviour. But obviously that's our third red card of the season, but the only one that stands so far, because the other 2 were rescinded. It's actually the second one, obviously, that Toure's picked up as well, but the first one was obviously overturned after an appeal. But yeah, it's one of those ones I think, hopefully Toure will learn his lesson, but you get the impression he's the kind of player who maybe has that in him occasionally, really, so hopefully... He can grow up a little bit and not do it again.
He'll probably be glad for the rest as well, because he has looked maybe a little bit jaded. So
sort of follows on to the next one. So obviously, is it time for a change, sort of generally and up front particularly? Regan Thompson did raise this one on the Be Justin Fearnot group. Obviously, we played well again, but once I think you can say easily that we were wasteful with chances again, weren't we? Though That's one of the big problems. We're creating a lot, but we've only got 2 on target. And how many brilliant saves has the keeper had to make? Probably not that many, really, when you think about it.
Well, that's the thing, and as well, I mean, our forward players in general this season haven't actually scored that many goals. When you look at it, obviously John Mellish is by far our top scorer. So I mean, they've looked good, but it's all good and well looking good, but goals are what matters. I'd rather they looked useless and scored a couple every week, than sort of look threatening and don't score.
Yeah, well, see, Toure's suspension gives Beech no choice but to make a change. Mari Patrick returned, a bit of a surprise one. We didn't expect that for the Exeter game. Came on, looked quite lively, I thought, in places.
He had a really good effort at one point. He absolutely, put his foot right through it.
He seems a little bit more committed to... Toure just wants that extra yard of space to get the shot away, which I don't think he seems to realise yet. You're not going to get that often in League 2 compared to the National League. Whereas Patrick seems a bit more acclimatised and he knows just get the shot away sometimes is the best thing to do. Would you put Patrick straight back in? I mean, obviously, fitness aside, do you reckon he's ready to come straight back into the team?
I mean, yeah, his fitness is the big issue, isn't it? But I mean, for me, Gavin Riley hasn't done a lot wrong. He had a really good game and then he got dropped out again a couple of weeks ago. So for me, I'd like to see Gavin Riley given a go.
I think generally maybe we need a few changes to freshen things up, and maybe in midfield. I know Joe Riley's settling in quite well now, but do you maybe bring Dean Furman in for a bit of solidity in there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the team in general, the way that we sort of played a couple of weeks ago, it's sort of quite intense, constantly, running around, winning the ball back. Like, you're not going to be able to do that Saturday, Tuesday every week, are you? So, yeah, we just need to keep it fresh, really. I mean, who goes out and who comes in? Obviously, we don't know on the training pitch who's freshest and all the rest of it. That's obviously for the management to decide. But, yeah, changes are absolutely needed, and hopefully as well with the cup game, we can give some of the fringe players a go as well, and maybe even some of the kids.
Yeah, I think interestingly, you mentioned about freshening things up. Conor Malley's, I think that's 2 games in a row now he's not been on the bench. Bit of an interesting one, that one. Maybe he's not shown enough to justify being involved. It's strange because obviously he's brought in as that extra midfield and a bit of a attacking quality, but nowhere to be seen on Saturday. So. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens with that. You mentioned about winning the ball back there. This one I want to quickly touch on, Mike. Interesting, some things that the club retweeted this morning, actually. There's some EFL Stats Twitter account that's tweeted some interesting stats from the league. The one that stands out the most is the most interceptions stat for League 2. Of the top 5... and there's a joint 5th place, and that's the top 6 effectively. 5 of them are Carl United players. You've got Nick Anderton on 25, then you've got Luther Wilding from Stevenage on 23, but then it's Hayden on 21, Guy on 20, and Tanner on 20, with Jay Spearing from Tranmere also on 20. That shows you just how good we are at getting those second balls and putting pressures on teams. It's great that we're able to do that at the moment, but you'd imagine it's going to get to a point soon with all these games back to back.
Yeah.
They're going to struggle a little bit, and surely there needs to be a little bit of a fresh face in there potentially.
Yeah, definitely. That's pretty much exactly what I just said. Can't disagree.
Yeah. Some of the other stats, I'll quickly pick them out here. So, EFL, sort of, the League 2 most fouled players. Way out in front is Ibu Adams from Forest Green on 37, but in joint 6th place alongside Anthony Sasevic from Bolton is Gimme Toure on 23, funny enough. It just doesn't say a lot, isn't it, because he's got a red card now. But aerial duels won 7th place, Joshua Kayode with 55. League 2 successful tackles, Callum Guy in 3rd place on 29, just behind top place who were 30. And obviously you've got George Tanner there as well in 7th place on 26. Yeah, well,
Callum Guy had another one for, I think he's 2nd for most key passes in the division as well. So he's really, really becoming a key player this season, one of the first names on the team sheet.
Absolutely. Successful dribbles. Gimme Toure, he's got 23, he's top of the pile. Question is, are we making the most of those dribbles, I suppose? But we haven't got anyone in top clearances, interestingly. But I suppose that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that shows that maybe we're intercepting it before it gets to the point where you have to clear the ball.
Yeah,
so there's a positive
so,
there. And like you said, key passes, Callum Guy's joint second with 22. Top on key passes by a country mile is George Thompson at Harrogate Town with 35. It's quite impressive, isn't it, really? How far ahead he is. Toure is also in the... and Alessandro actually are both in the top 10 for key passes as well, so that's impressive to see. So yeah, so a lot of the key stats, and stats can give a misleading representation of things, but all the key stats were doing well, so plenty of positives to take from there.
Yeah, although I mean, it's interesting, because you say stats can be misleading. I mean, obviously Newport, who were playing this weekend, Tuesday, their top scorer, Tristan Abrams, is the joint 18th top scorer in the division. Like, they've really sort of shared the goals out among the team rather than just having one player scoring. And, Abrams hasn't scored as many as Mellish, but they're top of the league with only one draw and one defeat. So who are we to argue?
Yeah. Okay, next one of the talking points. I've picked this one out. Signs of real progress. I think if you went back in the last couple of years to a game like this where you've just gone 1-0 down and you go down to 10 men, I think we'd have probably comfortably lost the game with past teams. But this team's so resilient and so tactically aware and so on the ball that they can quickly switch to something different and still be on top of the game, can't they? I think that's a real sign of progress. That one of the teams that we both agree they're going to be right up there, aren't they, at the end of the season in terms of promotion. And we've given them a really good game this weekend, and that's a real positive to take.
I think the thing, because of sort of the pace that we've got up front, teams can't sort of quite push their back four up as they sort of chase a goal, because we could be so lethal on the counter if teams do that. And rightly they haven't been doing that, but sometimes and likewise that Grimsby game where they were sort of very reluctant to do that, and it was quite a dull 0-0. It means they're not going to score, but it means we're not going to score either if that's how they want to combat it.
Yeah. And the final talking about this one was raised by Lewis Ridley on the Beech Fairknock group as well. Like I've said before, I'd recommend anyone to join that group. It's really, really good. Lots of really positive and good Carl United chat on there. Long throw fatigue. It didn't really appear that Kayode's long throw was quite as effective over the weekend. Our teams maybe starting to suss it out, maybe. Is Kayode wasted doing that? Or should we have him in the middle? We've seen there from the stats how many aerial duels he's winging. Well, he can't get on the end of his own throws as good as he might be, but is it time to maybe try Luis Alessandra's throw potentially?
Well, we say it's not quite as effective, but I still don't think we haven't scored a single goal off them, have we? Or have we?
I think we've maybe created something from the aftermath of one, possibly, but
yeah,
I need to have a go and look back because I genuinely can't remember.
No, I can't recall any. We may well have done, but yeah, they just seem to read them all spot on, didn't they? And we didn't even look anywhere near scoring off any of them.
And they don't have the biggest defence either, to be fair. Exeter and Sweeney, their other centre back alongside Parks is not the biggest, and Parks is only 6'2" maybe at a push. So yeah, do we maybe let Luis Alessandro take them for a bit and get Kayode in there to win the flick-ons?
Yeah, or just take a normal bloody throwing, like
I know it's easy to say, but doing it every time. And I suppose the other way to look at it is because our two centre backs come up for it. It also was dragging Ryan Bowman back for every single throw-in at the weekend, and that meant as a result they couldn't really get away as quickly as they would have hoped as well.
Yeah.
So it does show it is a threat, but it takes me back to when we were under Keith Curl, doesn't it? And at first you had Tom Miller taking them, and we found out Mark Ellis had an even longer one. Yeah. But then having a centre back all the way up there to take the throw in, he was then miles out of position and not getting back quickly. And we realised there was an issue there. And even Tom Miller's throws were effective for a while, but after a bit, we just stopped using them, didn't we? Because they just weren't having the same impact that he originally did. So,
but it's not all about necessarily creating chances off it. It's more sort of just bombarding the opposition into sort of submission, isn't it? If they're constantly just having balls coming in at them, all right, they clear the long throw, it's out for a corner, and then the corner's coming in. Do you know what I mean? It's about just grinding them down.
Even winning the second ball and getting out wide and getting a cross in, you've then got your centre backs up there to challenge for that cross, and that puts them under pressure. So yeah, I do see positives. I do wonder if maybe there needs to be slight tweak to it. Like I said, maybe it's time to let Lewis Alessandra take one or two.
Yeah.
And just let's see how that works, and getting Kayode into the middle as well. I think that covers it really, Mike. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss from the Exeter game?
No, not really. I mean, I sort of touched on the last one that I did, that Joe Riley can go a bit invisible, but I felt like the Exeter game, he was a lot more noticeable on the ball, which is good to see. But that's about it, really. Yeah, we've kind of covered it. I mean, like you say, Exeter are one of the top teams in the division. With 10 men, we gave them a good game. We can't beat ourselves up too much over it, can we, really?
No, definitely not. Okay, we'll take a short break now, and we'll be back then to discuss the midweek game against the early pace setters in League 2, Newport County. Back soon. Welcome back, everyone, and we're into part 2 now, where we're going to be looking ahead to the midweek clash against League 2's table toppers in these first 10 games at Newport County. So let's get on to the interesting facts, Mike. Got quite a few for this one, actually. Newport, a very rich history, has to be said. So the original Newport County Football Club was formed in 1908, but sadly went out of business in 1989. A group of county fans then set up Newport AFC with the aim of getting the club as far up the English league system as possible. I think they were invited to join the Welsh League when it was formed in the mid-90s, but they turned it down. So 10 years after the original club went bust, they were actually advised that no one would be chasing the old club's debts, so if they wanted to take on the name, they were welcome to, and I think there was a vote possibly to decide it, and they agreed that it would be the best way forward, because effectively was a continuation of the old club. They returned to the league in 2013 after winning promotion via the playoffs from the National League, and Newport are actually one of 5 Welsh clubs currently playing in the English leagues system, and the other ones are Cardiff and Swansea in the Championship, Wrexham in the National League, and Merthyr Town in the Southern League. I think, was it Connors Quay were possibly playing in the sort of English Northern non-leagues this season? I think they've taken a season out, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they've sort of dipped in and out, haven't they? Yeah.
I think due to coronavirus and all the issues, they felt it wasn't worth the hassle, really, especially with the difference between English and Welsh regulations. They've decided to basically have a season out, similar to the way I think it's Droylsden in Manchester have done the same, because they just couldn't afford to carry on. Quite sad, really. They currently share their Rodney Parade ground with 2 rugby clubs, which is Dragons and Newport RFC. The ground is actually owned by Welsh Rugby Union, and you can really tell that rugby's played in it, can't you, Mike? Because it's an absolute state most of the year.
Yeah, it's like a potato field, isn't it? It's just awful to play football on.
Yeah, it's a real shame. It is actually one of the, I think it's the second oldest sports ground in use in the EFL. And obviously, you know what the oldest one is, Mike, because I've put it on the running order, so you'll see that bit, which is Deepdale at Preston. Yeah, so their official nickname is the Exiles, but they also go by the Ironsides, the Ports, and the County. And this is a great fact, this. The original club played in the 1980-81 UEFA Cup Winners' Cup after winning the Welsh Cup. They made it to the quarter-finals, where they lost 3-2 on aggregate to Carl Zeiss Jena of East Germany. And Carl Zeiss Jena actually got to the final. I think they lost to Dynamo Tbilisi that season. Celeb fans, we've only managed to find one set of celeb fans, Mike, haven't we? And that's Goldie Looking Chain. I think famously they sponsored their shirts for a short while, didn't they? I think.
Yeah.
Michael Sheen is from Newport, but he's a Liverpool fan. So
Glory hunter.
Exactly. Okay, head-to-heads. Pretty balanced, this, isn't it, Mike? Really, when you look at it, 6 wins for us, 6 wins for Newport, and 10 draws. That's changed in the last couple of years, because we were a bit behind, weren't we? We had a pretty wretched record when they first came back into the league.
But at the same time, like, it just seems like we always lose to them when we play them.
It's strange. Even that game when Danny Granger scored that rocket into the top corner, I'm still convinced we lost that game. And then I just refuse to accept that we actually won it.
Yeah, well, when we had that amazing unbeaten start to the season under Keith Curle, I'm pretty sure, did we end that against Newport?
Yeah, it was at Newport, that game was, yes. But the last time we actually played Newport, funny enough, was the final League 2 game before the original COVID-19 lockdown back in March. We ran out comfortable 2-0 winners against what was a pretty dreadful looking Newport side that day, wasn't it? They did not look good. Comfortable win with goals from Kayode with a penalty and Amari Patrick. It's weird how coincidence happened though, isn't it? Because we're playing Newport County at Brunton Park on a Tuesday night, just before a national COVID lockdown's about to kick in. Really weird coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who could have predicted it? Okay, we've already said this, Mike, haven't we? But the Exiles found themselves top of the league after 10 games, and I don't think it's a position that we thought they would be in, did we? I think in the preview we thought they would be solid enough, but maybe struggle a little bit, maybe have a little hangover, because, like we said, they didn't end last season particularly well, did they?
No. It really shows what we know. I think if you play that season preview at the end of the season, we won't have got a lot right, really, will we? But
Bolton and Salford to be at the top, that's gone well, hasn't it?
Yeah, but no, they're doing really well, and obviously you can touch on it in a bit. But Mike Flynn seems to have just done an incredible job. I think it was when he took over. About a few years ago now. I think they were like 11, 12 points from safety, weren't they?
Something like that. And following on from Graham Wesley is never going to be an easy job, is it, really? So he did well there. But
he was originally brought in as John Sheridan's assistant as well.
I did not know that, I wasn't aware of that. I always forget that John Sheridan been manager of them too. Currently on a 5-game unbeaten run in the league. And all 5 of those games have been wins, which is quite impressive. That's what's shot them, basically. 8 points clear of everyone else, while other teams have been dropping the odd point here and there. They've just been winning, and in fact their last defeat was against Cambridge United. So no disgrace in that, really. They lost 2-1. That was a narrow loss as well.
All the best teams lose to Cambridge.
Yeah, I don't think we could have predicted at the start of the season that that game would have been ended up against the team that was going to be setting the pace at the start of the league. The latest win actually was 2-1 over 10-man Harrogate at the weekend, and that was thanks to an 88th minute winner, so it shows they've got real determination to keep going and should make it a really interesting contest actually against us, all things considered. They went out in the 4th round of the EFL Cup very narrowly on penalties against Newcastle United. I think Mark Gillespie had a bit of a stinker at the start of that game, didn't he, for Newcastle? I think he let a really soft goal in.
Yeah.
They actually beat Watford in the previous round 3-1 though. Quite impressive. As you mentioned, their manager is Mike Flynn, and he really has to be said, done a remarkable job on what is a pretty small budget for them. Since keeping them in the league, obviously back in 2017, as you mentioned before, he's built a side, hasn't he? And he's slowly but surely brought players in, built a real good core of a squad, and they've been regularly challenging for the playoffs. And the last season was a bit different, obviously, with the lockdown and everything that happened. Never really got to see how they would end the season. But he really has picked them up again this season, which is actually a testament to them. And you've got to imagine there'll be big clubs looking around at him and thinking, he's worth a look at some point in the future. I suppose the positive going for them, it's his hometown club, and he may not be that keen to move away for any old club, really. So that might just help them out a little bit. Quick look at their squad, Mike. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it beforehand, but got to say, I'm looking back now again after the way we assessed it in the pre-season preview. I know they've added a couple of players since then, but some real quality in there, actually, when you look at it, isn't there? I mean, particularly in attacking positions. They've got a couple of players on loan from Bristol City as well. Kevin Ellison gives them a bit of experience up there, but Ryan Taylor, Padraig Armand, Jamie Proctor, we'll mention in a minute. The other Jamie, we'll mention him soon. I haven't said his full name yet, so if anyone is playing the Jamie Devitt drinking game. Oh, shit. Done it then. All right, there. Drink. But yeah, and you look at, obviously, Josh Sheehan has always been a real quality midfielder, hasn't he? And Josh Labadie, he's always been a pain in the arse, hasn't he? Even Matt Dolan. Just players that slip off the tongue as good League Two performers, aren't they, really? And that's a real testament to the job that he's done.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said earlier as well, obviously they've got like Amond, who I think he had that season, was it for Grimsby about 5 years ago, where he scored an absolute ton of goals.
He's been capped for the Full Island team now, hasn't he, I think?
Yeah. They're sharing the goals amongst the team. There's not sort of one sort of player that you'd say, keep an eye on him and the job's a good one. They've got goals and they can create things sort of throughout the team, so they're really going to be a difficult team.
Yeah, the only position you'd even say that maybe they struggle a bit for experience is in defence. They've got Mickey Demetrio, who's obviously been around the block, but they've got quite a few young players in defence too, so that's maybe an area where you can potentially target them. Other teams haven't yet. Interestingly, they've got, I think it's 7 players on loan. So 2 of the players that are on loan have to miss out every time they play. So that's an interesting one.
Hopefully Jamie Devitt's one of them.
Well, they drink up everyone. But yeah, let's on to the ex-Carlisle players there. And so obviously you mentioned their familiar name in the squad, Jamie Devitt. He actually made his debut for them at the weekend as an 81st minute substitute. Didn't set up the goal though. I don't know how involved he was. And the other ex-Carlisle player there is Jamie Proctor. One who sort of divides opinion with Carlisle fans. I didn't particularly rate him. I felt for the amount of money we were paying him a week allegedly. Didn't think it was a great move from Curl. I think he could have done better with that money. But some of us actually still think he was a really good player, maybe just a bit unlucky with injuries. But then you'd ask the question, why are you signing a player who's got a particularly poor injury record, as Proctor did at that point?
Exactly, yeah. But he's only played, I think, 2 games maybe for them this season. He certainly hasn't featured that prominently, but he's guaranteed to score against us anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's nailed, is it? Him or Devitt is going to score. That's just the way it is. On to team news. Before we even get to it, Newport, I haven't got any team news for them. There's nothing on their local newspapers or websites, so just have to be guesswork with that. Carlisle team news, obviously Jamie Toure is going to miss out due to suspension. As we mentioned before, Mary Patrick returned as a sub against Exeter, so it'll be interesting to see if he does come in and take Toure's place. Dickinson and Walker obviously still out to the new year, and Josh Dixon is still building up his fitness. Mike, predictions. So what are you going to go for?
See, I'm not feeling optimistic, but I never like to predict us to lose, so I'm going to go for 1-1.
Does anyone on this thing ever picked anything with them? 1-1. Well, who's scoring?
I reckon Mellish. Go on.
Mellish, all right, you're going to back in the goals. Fair enough. You know what? I think we're going to bounce back from that game, and I think with a couple of changes, we'll catch Newport on the cold. I think we're going to win 2-1.
It's so adorable how optimistic you are.
I am ever the optimist. Someone's got to be on this programme. Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1, and I think I'm going to go with goals from Nick Anderton, and Amari Patrick, I think, is going to get one on his return to the side. That's my predictions. Well, that's the preview of the Newport game done, Mike. So let's move on to the X-Files section. Look at how ex-United players and coaches have been getting on across the world. And we don't generally cover the coaches as much, but we will with the first one today, because it was the clash of the ex-United managers, wasn't it? At Wigan v Northampton this weekend. John Sheridan up against Keith Curl. And Curl came out the victor. I think it was 3-2 to Northampton, wasn't it? Quite a good result for Curl, because I think they've been struggling a bit actually in League One this season. Clearly not earned the right to play, had they? But yes, a bit of a clash there. And the other ex-CFC links, there's 2 there. There's Nicky Adams, made his 600th career appearance for the, well, not just for Northampton, but obviously generally throughout his career.
I think he's got to be, 35 or so now, maybe?
I mean, he's only 32, 33, I don't know.
He?
You might want to look that up, because I haven't got a clue.
I'll have a look.
Yeah, so it's obviously Garner scores in that game. Adams didn't set up any of the goals, but he obviously was involved in the fact that they won 3-2. Yeah, good result for them. Jack Sowerby played as well, actually, I should say, in that match.
Yeah, 34 Nicky Adams is.
Wow, a bit younger than me. Did not expect that. But yeah, so there's plenty of ex-CFC links there. Barrow picked up their second win of the season, and another ex-Carlisle player scored. It was Connor Brown this time, though. One-time loanee from Oldham. He scored for Barrow's win over Bradford. Other goals scored out the Football League for ex-Carlisle players. Paddy Madden again for Fleetwood. And Jerry Yates got a double for Blackpool this weekend. One little bit transfer news for an ex-Carlisle player, isn't there, Mike?
Yeah.
I think, is this the last player from the ones released last season to sort himself out of Newport?
He wasn't released, was he? He got offered a new contract and turned it down.
You're right. So it's Jack Bridge, in case you hadn't guessed already. Jack Bridge has signed for Concord Rangers. Now, I'm not sure what level Concord Rangers are at, Mike.
I haven't got a clue. But I tell you what, if he scores in his debut, it'll be a flying start.
God, give me a chance.
There we go.
A little bit delayed that time, but yeah, no, they're National League South, to be fair, so it's not too bad a level, but you do wonder, was the deal he was offered really bad that meant he just couldn't take it and felt that he had to look elsewhere, and he's ended up at a Southern League, National League South club instead? It's a strange one, isn't it, really? I think there's ability there. I do wonder if his judgment isn't particularly great at times, maybe, and maybe he's been badly advised by an agent, possibly, I'm not sure. But an interesting one there. And the other bit of news is Jared Brandtwaite's returned from injury for Everton back on the bench, and I think he's the only backup defender for them at the moment, I think, because they've got 3 players out injured and some suspended as well, so
yeah,
he may well get his chance if there's another knock in that team.
Yeah, hopefully somebody does get injured,
A bit sadistic there, Mike, but thanks.
Yeah.
But you'd imagine, actually, I wonder if there's a chance he might get called up to one of the England youth teams in the next week or two, because obviously we saw that Dean Furman was called up today, but the under-21s, under-19s and all those for the European sides will get called up very soon, won't they? And you'd imagine the way he was playing back in June and July, I think the only reason he missed out on the last one because he was injured, wasn't he? So,
well, I mean, for me, the question isn't sort of will he get called up, it's which one he'll get called up into.
Maybe too soon for under-21, I don't know, but you imagine having maybe a decent chance, possibly. But there you go. Okay, Mike, I think that's it for this week. Nice, short and sweet compared against some of the other ones, but thank you for joining me. Always appreciated. In terms of upcoming specials and everything like that, some of you will already heard the John Coleman special. I still advise you to go and listen to it. It's a great listen. It's not time sensitive or anything like that, so you can listen to it anytime you want. You won't be out of date. We talk about John's new book, Bolts from the Blues, and some of the goals that were covered in that and how he came to decide them, and some of the goals he almost left out as well. Big revelation he gave us there. Yeah, so that's well worth listening to. Me and Mike are going to, some point over the next week or two, we're going to record his favourite CUFC 11, aren't we, Mike? So that'll be an interesting one to discuss as well. And me and Dan are going to get around to that kits one. It's just a case of getting the time together to discuss it. I'm just filling time here, Mike, because I'm trying to get the map to load up to find out exactly where people are listening around the world. I don't think we've got a new country. Oh, we have! Switzerland!
Oh.
Hey, neutral territory.
Was it Raphael Spiegel?
I doubt very much. I think he probably wants to forget his experience of that. Someone's listening to it in Toure in Switzerland. So thank you to our Swiss Blues for listening. Really appreciate that. So yeah, if you've got anything you want to discuss or any comments or feedback, you can contact us on all the usual channels. That's on Twitter at Brunton Bugle or via email to bruntonbugle@gmail.com. If you haven't already, you remember you can subscribe to the podcast using any good podcast app, so stuff like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Acast, Spotify, all the things like that. You can you can subscribe to them, and you'll get it every time a new episode comes out. You won't have to go looking for it. And yeah, we really appreciate all the really good feedback we've had so far. Mike, you're going to be watching the game tomorrow night?
Yeah, will be, yes. So cross my fingers that I'm going to get furloughed again rather than have to work for the next month. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, and then obviously Sunday I'll be able to watch that as well. So
should be good. That should be good indeed. Okay, Mike, thanks very much for joining me this week. Thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.